All right, so moving on to the final segment, I'll be sharing my fight summary on the main event of UFC 309 between Jon Jones and Stipe. So, in the main event of UFC 309, we've seen Jon Jones successfully retain his heavyweight championship against Stipe by earning a third round knockout in the main event of UFC 309 in Madison Square Garden. So, my thoughts on the fight. Jon Jones basically dominated Stipe from start to finish in this fight. Now, Jon Jones obviously looked like the more faster, more explosive fighter compared to Stipe last night. That was basically the story of the fight. Jon Jones was faster, Stipe was slower. Jon Jones was, as the fight went on, he just found more ways to break down Stipe, break his will, and he was landing some thunderous shots on Stipe, landing some significant strikes in the fight. And Jon Jones basically controlled the pace of the fight, controlled the tempo of the fight, never got himself in danger. And Stipe was just too slow to slow down what Jon Jones was dishing out to him defensively. And Jon Jones landing that spinning back kick to the body to basically set it up for the knockout finish. That was clean as a whistle, man. I mean, it sounded like basically a gunshot. When you go back and look at the highlight when you're watching it, that was a clean back kick that he landed on Stipe. So Jon Jones, this was another top win to Jon Jones' resume. He just knocked out and finished the career of Stipe. Stipe being the greatest heavyweight of UFC history. Jon Jones did that, so he adds another impressive name to his resume. Now, Jon Jones is obviously the greatest of all time, greatest MMA fighter of all time, baddest man on the planet. And he's now has a total of 17 world title victories in his career. He sets up at the top with some all-time greats in UFC with the most title victories in UFC history, with guys like George St. Pierre and Mighty Mouse Demetrius Johnson having the most title victories in UFC history. But Jon Jones has the most out of the two other respective fighters with 17. So now Jon Jones has defeated guys like DC. He's defeated Stipe, Quentin Rampage Jackson, Rashawn Evans. I mean, the man's resume is just top tier. Two division world champion as well. Greatest light heavyweight champion of all time. Jon Jones is the greatest of all time. But this is where things get interesting now. Because now what's next for Jon Jones? Now, things are going to get interesting. Heard all week long in interviews that Jon Jones is willing to vacate the heavyweight title so he could get a fight against Alex Pereira next instead of defending it against Tom Aspinall. And Dana White has now stepped in and said, no, Jon Jones will fight Tom Aspinall next, or he will no longer fight in the UFC. And there's a lot that's going on here because Jon Jones is publicly saying, I don't want to fight an up-and-coming dangerous fighter. No, I want to fight an established fighter that makes sense to my legacy. So now we're either going to get Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall for the heavyweight title in 2025, or we're not going to see Jon Jones anymore, period. And Dana White is even saying that he wants Tom Aspinall next because Alex Pereira isn't ready yet. He hasn't had a fight at heavyweight yet. He's not a great grappler compared to Jon Jones. But Tom Aspinall has the striking ability, and he's not a better wrestler than Jon Jones, but he has grappling abilities to give Jon Jones a run for his money. And he is the interim heavyweight champion. He did defend that interim heavyweight title against Curtis Blades this summer, getting a first-round knockout. So what else does Tom Aspinall have to do to get a heavyweight title opportunity? Hell, he only even became the interim heavyweight champion because last year at UFC 295, Jon Jones pulled out of the fight against Stipe. We were supposed to get this fight a long time ago between Jon Jones and Stipe, a year ago at Madison Square Garden. But that's the night where Tom Aspinall won the interim heavyweight title because Jon Jones wasn't able to compete at that time. So now it's coming full circle. I think Tom Aspinall should get the title shot against Jon Jones. And if it were me controlling Jon Jones, having control and having the opportunity to book him, I would book Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall for the heavyweight title in the beginning part of 2025 for an undisputed heavyweight champion to see who is the best heavyweight, I should say, on the planet. And if Jon Jones is successful, second half of 2025, and if Alex Pereira continues his dominance at light heavyweight, then you get two pound-for-pound fighters fighting each other at the back end of 2025 for a monumental fight. But I keep saying I think that's a fun fight between Jon Jones and Alex Pereira. But Alex Pereira just doesn't have, he has the striking to make it interesting when it's standing up on the feet. But he just doesn't have the grappling ability just yet, or he hasn't been tested against a grappler yet to get in there with someone like Jon Jones just yet. So maybe Alex Pereira should test out a fight at heavyweight, see how it goes first, before getting in there, trying to get in there with Jon Jones. But this is going to be an interesting story to follow. We're going to see if Jon Jones vacates and rides off into the sunset, or he's compensated by Dana White and gets that big money fight to fight Tom Aspinall in 2025. And I'm here for it. I think either one of those fights are going to be fun to see for 2025. So obviously this is the end of the road for Stipe. Stipe did say after his loss against Jon Jones, he is retiring. And Stipe is one of the greatest heavyweight fighters. He is the greatest heavyweight fighter of all time. Two-time heavyweight champion, has several title wins and title defenses at heavyweight. I mean, he's got those marquee names of DC, beating DC twice. He beat Francis Ngannou. His resume is top tier. It's pretty impressive what he's done at heavyweight. But Father Time has caught up to him. It happens to every athlete. And Stipe, being 42, being inactive for 3 years, his last fight he got knocked out against Francis Ngannou in 2021 when he lost the heavyweight title. So I don't really know what people were expecting for this fight. I mean, he was very slow last night. He didn't really move around well. Jon Jones was just way faster than him. His reflexes were off defensively, really couldn't do much. And I think this is the end. But Jake Paul and Most Valuable Promotions are probably licking their chops to give Stipe a call. A retired MMA fighter now, 42 years of age. He fits the criteria to fight Jake Paul in a boxing ring very soon. But as I digress, the world of combat sports in boxing and MMA this weekend saw some heavyweights leave the sport, their respective sports for the final time. Mike Tyson coming out of retirement at 58, the end for him, obviously. And now Stipe, the greatest heavyweight fighter of all time in UFC, this is the end for him. So you just seen two careers end in combat sports this weekend. Mike Tyson officially again for the second time, but Stipe once again. But that is my Jon Jones versus Stipe fight summary. That is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off. And I'll see you guys on next week's episode.